we continue on with the spooky edition of the Close Fist. As Will here next to me and Joey Fingers over there in the far left. We're here. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I can't hear anything you're saying, Russ.
Oh, my goodness. Can you get some heat in that? Those things warm up more.
Yeah, it warms you up quick.
It's all that hot air you're spewing. Oh, sorry.
Hey now.
Hey, something's got to warm this place up. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, right?
I can see your nipples.
Oh, boy. Don't get too excited. And speaking of being excited, Evolution is here.
That was a weird.
Segue?
Yeah, excited. Women wrestling. I don't know, Russ. I'm a little bit weird.
Hey, you brought it there.
I'm glad you're just sitting underneath the tablecloth right now.
Boy, speaking of clusterfucks.
Yeah.
I said this from the moment.
Don't cover our logo, Joe.
Yeah, Joe, don't cover the logo.
Jeez.
I said this when I just didn't see this mounting to much. And in injuries, I mean, Alexa Bliss is out with an injury, so that's taking one of the main event matches.
Way too rough on these girls.
She got a concussion. I thought it was an armbar. It's a concussion.
Yeah. So armbar, concussion. I mean, she's been banged up for a bit. And just the way that this has been promoted, or lack thereof.
Well, I think they did it a disservice when we talked the last show we did. We talked about how the promotion for it disappeared.
Yep.
You know what I mean? When they decided to do Crown Jewel and they were pumping Evolution up, pumping it up in June, July, into August, and then poof, it was gone. You didn't see a thing about it for a month because they were pushing Crown Jewel. And then when it got into the first week of October, all of a sudden there's a women's pay-per-view again. What? You didn't talk about it for weeks. And then all of a sudden now you're going to promote it again? Did you know that it was already going to be a loss, so you said screw it? Or, or was Crown Jewel that important, which we've already covered today, but, interesting.
Well, I think you kind of said it in your little rant there. Is it a loss?
Yeah,
you compare that to the millions that they're getting from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
What are you going to promote?
Well, of course. It's like, I'm not denying that.
Yeah, it's like Jesus. I mean, that's and of course, and Lita's going to be there. Trish is going to be there.
Nostalgia.
Lita look like a soccer
mom. So it's. I don't see. I just don't see the logic. I mean, we have to be honest about something. Why is there an all-women's pay-per-view?
Because for the past 2 years, they've been pushing the women's revolution.
Or is it because it's a little say, hey, we did the Saudi Arabia thing the first time. You weren't there. You weren't allowed to go, or however that was. We'll just give you your own women's pay-per-view.
Absolutely not.
No. I think
bullshit.
No,
I call that.
Are you kidding? With the matches that Charlotte Flair and Sasha had on Raw, the matches on SmackDown, these women have had pay-per-view matches, of ladder matches, Hell in a Cell. The women have brought their game up. They deserved a shot. Whether or not it takes off, you can
whether or not anybody cares is a whole other ballgame. You can blame
the advertising all you want and everything, but they're giving it a shot.
It's kind of a coincidence that after not Crown Jewel, but the first time it was the greatest Royal Rumble, whatever, that after that, that's when they decided to give them.
Do you really think Saudi Arabia is going to make that big of an impact on an American company because they wouldn't let women wrestle there? That, hey, you know what? We're going to slap them in the face just so the women could fight there? No, it has nothing to do with that. They're having Evolution, and then 5 days later they're going back to Saudi Arabia. That's not a slap in the face? No.
I don't know if the timing of it is a slap in the face per se. I think
the timing of it. Go ahead.
I think I watched the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, not the one in Saudi Arabia, the original, the one in January. And that women's Royal Rumble was super fun. A lot of botches, whatever, but it was super fun. You had the women's revolution, I think, kind of peaked there. You had Asuka win. It was a huge deal, whatever. I just think they were trending to do this pay-per-view regardless of whether Saudi Arabia was happening or not. Yep. That's what I'm saying. I think they've been pushing this too much to not have, and this goes back to the original conversation we all had about do you go pay-per-view or television show first? You know, right. So one of the two was going to happen regardless. Stephanie McMahon has put too much time and effort into the women's division and changing it to the women's division and the women's title, not the divas, not all the stuff. I just think this was going to happen regardless.
And plus, you said it yourself, too. All the steam they get behind it from Twitter and all this stuff for the Divas show and the Bellas show and all that other stuff put this up, too. But the thing is, the reason why there's probably a regular pay-per-view right after with men is because you really don't have a pay-per-view for October with just the guys. You just have the females. If you're signing up for the WWE Network and you want to watch all the pay-per-views, you're skipping a pay-per-view with your names, your big names.
To me, if you look at the whole situation, I just don't. I'm not saying that they don't deserve a pay-per-view. I just think that
Russ is sexist.
No, I just think that kind of like what Will was saying, timing. The timing of it kind of leads to that in a way. And I'm not saying that they don't deserve it, because they absolutely do deserve it. But I just think that with the timing of everything, with the first greatest Royal Rumble ever, and there was kind of like an upheaval about that too.
Yeah, but one country is not going to change the world.
No, but
or a business.
Well, you say that, but what did we just get talking about with Crown Jewel?
It's not changing, but it's not going to change a company's outlook because they can't have women wrestle in one country.
Well, they
wrestle all over the world.
The women were pissed, though.
They were pissed, yeah.
They were
pissed.
They were. I mean, let's put it this way: it was in the works to have that pay-per-view. Okay, but I think what happened with the greatest Royal Rumble ever maybe kind of accelerated things a little bit.
Possibly.
I mean, I could see that, but to say that the greatest Royal Rumble ever didn't lead to an all women's pay per view, or somehow didn't accelerate the process to have the all women's pay per view, I think you're missing the boat. Not entirely, but I just think it was a factor in that.
If that's the case, then that would be stupid business, because you're slapping Saudi Arabia in the face if you're Vince McMahon by doing that. Like, you can't have the girls here, so we're going to start our own girl thing.
Well, that's what they did.
And then you want to continue your business with Saudi Arabia?
I don't think
that's
so.
What they did.
It's not because of that.
Yeah, I don't think it's because of it.
I'm not saying it's
the women's evolution has been building up way before there was ever a Royal.
I'm saying it's a factor in it. I'm saying it's a factor.
I don't think it's a factor at all. I think it's two separate entities. It just happened to be, like you said, timing.
But it's a factor. If you're talking about it, I mean, whether it's timing, whether it's a timing issue, whether it's that they're trying to make up for what they did.
They're not trying to make up for that. Because you can't wrestle in one country, we're going to give you everything. No, they've been building up the women's evolution for 3 years. Saudi Arabia was one pay-per-view.
No, it's actually two pay-per-views.
Now it is, yes, if it even happens. But one pay-per-view didn't put all this stuff in motion. This stuff was in motion before.
I'm not saying. I'm saying it's a factor. I'm not saying it's.
I disagree 120%.
No, I mean, I'm sorry, but
we can agree to disagree, because I don't think it was a factor in them putting the thing, putting the pay-per-view on. I personally don't, because like I said, I just think that when you say a factor, I just don't see it. I just think that it was time for a pay-per-view. They moved, and if you notice, they transitioned all of their pay-per-views throughout the whole year. Because what used to be the October pay-per-view? Does anybody remember? Hell in the Cell.
Yep.
Hell in the Cell used to be the October pay-per-view. They moved that up. They got rid of Night of Champions. or Clash of Champions. I know they changed. Well, Night of Champions used to be the September pay-per-view.
Right.
But anyway, they transitioned. They moved everything around for not only they knew Saudi Arabia was coming, and they probably knew that the women's one was coming. I'm just saying this was all calculated year before any of this happened. I personally think.
I don't think so. I think they. I think it was a factor, and they'll never admit to it. Of course. I mean,
Yeah, we'll never know.
We'll never know.
Yeah.